Welcome back to the Cheri Hill Show, doing everything possible to spark and fuel your entrepreneurial dreams. Now, here's your host, Cheri Hill.
My guest today, Tom Taormina, is a senior business advisor in the fields of business process and quality system management and in organizational excellence. Tom has authored 12 books in these fields. He has helped companies from startups to Fortune 100s like Dell Computer, Burlington Northern Railroad, and Ford Motor Credit achieve their most challenging goals. He has served on the board of directors of the Northern Nevada Development Authority and was a co-founder of APEX, the Nevada State Quality Award. His 12th book, It Was Rocket Science, reveals the business model of Project Apollo that enables business leaders to achieve enterprise success utilizing the same processes used to win the space race in less than a decade. Also from the book, he shares the steps to solving impossible problems learned from the Apollo 13 disaster in space. Tom is a certified management consultant and a certified manager of quality and organizational excellence. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Cheri. Great to be with you.
So I'm always one of the first on the list to get your latest book. And of course, they're just so fascinating and so enlightening because of your background and your experience. But let's share with our listeners. I mean, why would somebody need to read It Was Rocket Science?
That's a great question. Let me preface it by the fact that my working title for so long on this book was called Perfecting Mediocrity. And the publishers just really couldn't get their arms around that. So the early chapters of It Was Rocket Science deal a great deal with the cultural issues that face us in our time. As a matter of fact, one of the fun things in there is I go through song lyrics from the 1900s through today. And if you just go from Hoagie Carmichael's lyrics to some of the current bands and what's in them, I can't even repeat them on the radio. It's fascinating to watch our culture ebb and flow as it has. So the setup for the book is, let's just take a moment and reflect. I'm a big reflector. No, wait a minute. That didn't come out right.
Well, you are shiny. You're a shiny object to me.
Let me put it a different way. What has gotten us to this point, not only in society or in Northern Nevada or in my household, what are the steps we have followed over the years that have brought us to the antithesis of where we might have been after World War II when we created this society of doers and achievers and everybody was out to live the American dream? That chapter on song lyrics alone will take you on a journey from really wanting the best in life to really wanting your best check from the government to sustain you and keep paying your smartphone bill. And I don't want to get terribly sardonic, but the companies that you and I work with, the people that are their employees, the people that work with them and for them, are products of several of these generations. I've met folks at casinos that have been there for 25, 30 years, and then I've met people who have never had a job, ever. They just don't know the concept of working. Matter of fact, Ann Silver and I have had this conversation with Joy, and she goes out trying to find people to train and say, isn't it better to have some money in your pocket that you've earned rather than some kind of public assistance? Again, I'm not trying to be morbid, but as a business person, I challenge everybody that's listening to look at their workforce. Who works for them? Who are the people that are there? And in the book, I talk about the simple steps that we can take to do this introspection. I do a lot of management retreats where we go lock ourselves up for 2 or 3 days. And those are always fun. I just did one in Sonoma. There was copious quantities of wine.
Of course. But
the outcome is that it takes the business owners and the senior staff and it puts a mirror up to them and says, who are you, first of all? What are your goals? Are you looking to sell the company as quickly as possible? Are you trying to make it the best in class of whatever it is you do? Or are you just trying to draw a paycheck? A lot of companies around here are now second generation, which is an interesting phenomena because junior seldom has the motivation that Daddy had. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is, if it's a family business, if it's a corporation, taking that time to look introspectively at who you are, where you want to go, and then recognizing the generations that work for you. Do you have any gray hairs like us? Our motivations are considerably different. I'm not being judgmental. As I said, I have grandkids, and their value system is completely different than mine, but they all work hard to get where they want to go. But without understanding that, without understanding who is in your inner circle, who are the people that work for you, you're destined to wind up in futility at the minimum and failure at the worst.
I read Entrepreneur magazine, but every time I read it, I get really angry. Because
you too, huh?
Well, yes, because I was reading one of the questions, some entrepreneur sent in and they said, yes, we were funded for $50 million from this new disruptive technology that we created. It's been a year. We don't have any money left, but it's time to give all our staff raises. Should we go out and raise more capital so we can give all our staff raises? And I sit here and I go, my gosh, what are we creating in this entrepreneurial mindset where people don't have to understand what it means to generate income?
Bless their heart, I've been with the Cube on and off for years, and they do some great work with entrepreneurial startups. But they don't invite me back to do the critiques anymore. But the last one was a young man who was selling gift cards on the internet. And his value proposition was, there was no value proposition. It was money in motion. And he just reached out and grabbed pieces of it as it went by. And what really got me was, oh, yeah, here's my business plan. I'm going to present it to this austere group of business leaders. But once I get the money, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go off and do what I want to do. The whole raise thing is just, it makes my skin crawl. The work we did at Dell Computer, you don't get an increase in base salary until you learn a new skill. It's just that simple. Now, there are group incentives and there are individual incentives that these people have and had. And Dell is famous in the late 90s and early 2000s for creating the 6-year millionaire. If you could stay there 6 years, you could retire with $1 million worth of stock. Unfortunately, I chose to be a consultant, which my wife keeps kicking me about. But the point is that increase in salary should be for a new skill, not because of longevity. Incentivizing people should be for producing defect-free products or services. Some of them don't like that because it says that if we don't produce whatever our goal is, 99, 100%, whatever it is, then nobody gets a bonus. And that's not fair. Yes, it is fair. Why shoot low?
It's not that hard to be excellent.
It isn't.
To me, it's harder to be mediocre.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're absolutely correct. You have to work at it to be mediocre. You have to plan to be doing things that aren't exactly the way they're supposed to. Your skin would crawl if you sat in on some of the legal work I've done where companies have had an outright business plan. I have a copy of a transcript of a deposition where they admitted to having an acceptable kill rate.
Oh.
Literally. They said their product was dangerous. They knew it was dangerous. There's nothing they could do about it. People were stupid, and they were going to kill a couple of people a year. Of course, that led to an immediate settlement of the case. But
I know a lot of your books are certainly around how to create what you call the Apollo business model and all the ways that you can really look at every area of your business, how you measure those outcomes. But it's a lot of it is just, this is the way to do business if you want to be excellent.
Absolutely. I did work with the Wyeth Pharmaceutical Warehouse in Sparks before they closed. And in 12 years, they had never shipped a package that was incorrect. Now, these are Sparks warehouse workers. I loved every one of them. When they were in that plant, there was nothing's going to leave that plant that isn't 100. Teach you how that model worked if people are interested, but it worked. One of the models I use in the book was inspired by a pizza place that used to be in the mall over here before it got torn down. And I met the fellow. His newest employee had been with him like 11 years in a pizza place. And he had taken the time to sit down and write out what customer satisfaction was for his business. And everybody that worked there was empowered to take action based on what the customer wanted. Nothing was impossible. How many times have you been to a good restaurant and said, well, I would rather have polenta than, well, that'll be an extra charge. I don't care. That's not the point.
Right.
You treat the customer like they are number one all the time, but you have to put limits on that. A store like Nordstrom's, they were taught the Nordstrom way, which is a book in itself, where if you didn't have the shirt the person wanted, you ran down to the next department store, got the shirt, gave it to them, and said, I'm sorry, we didn't have it in stock. Our current business people, who you were alluding to earlier, don't set up the rules. No. They don't set up the rules for themselves. They don't set the limits on the people that work for them. I got my oil changed at one of the chains not too long ago, and he said, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. I said, and if I'm not happy, you're going to buy me a new car? He said, that's not what we had in mind.
I like where this conversation is going, that in order for us to meet the demands of what our region is going to experience, everybody must reach that level of excellence.